Welcome to the Faster, Easier, Better show. This podcast is short, fun, and jam-packed with good ideas that you can start using right away.
Welcome to the final episode. I'm your co-host, Ellen, along with my co-host.
Don't say it ain't so.
It is. This is episode 400, and it's our last episode.
All right. I mean, in the words of the efficiency expert, it's time.
It is time.
See what I did there?
I did. Okay. Are you timing it?
Oh, good one. Good one.
Yeah. No, we have been doing this podcast for 8 years. We're hitting 400 episodes, and we've learned a lot. And I hope you, the listener, has learned a lot. And we'd like to just recap what we have learned and how it applies to the efficiency in your life. So, Lee, start it out.
Okay. Well, it's either 5 or 7 or 10 or 12. I think 7 lessons is a good number.
Okay.
7 quick lessons. So if you're listening, you're thinking, oh no, this is going to last forever. No. They're quick, which kind of was one of our things, was to not belabor points, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the first thing is that we have been able to go for 8 years and do 400 episodes because we've divided and conquered. And so instead of one person carrying the load, when you split it up in everything, it just makes it so much more doable, and it's easier to get your mind around it. It's easier to get started, and it's easier to stick with it. So divide and conquer.
Yeah, neither one of us had to carry the full load of, you have to come up with all the things, and you have to be the person that uploads things. We each did our thing, and it's really worked. So divide and conquer. What's number 2?
Well, that you play to your strengths. So many times throughout the 400 episodes, I would babble on incoherently, and then you would just sum it up with like, oh, well, that's such and such a thing, and that's scientifically proved that blah, blah. And I just thought, wow, without you, I don't know what would have happened to some of the good ideas that you were able to succinctly and smartly summarize. So my strength was just putting things out there, and your strength was making it make sense. And I think that, again, the yin and the yang, and then, each of us kind of using our strength. I tried to be funny. I didn't usually hit the mark, but I tried. And you tried to be smart, and you always nailed it.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you. And I think you were pretty funny. So, but, and in life, the same thing. We can't all be really great at everything. And so it's knowing when, that's not your strongest point. Maybe you get some help. Maybe you delegate. And that is what can make you more efficient. Okay.
All right. Number 3 was what I'd hoped to accomplish was I would do a deep dive on each topic. And I don't think anyone realized that because it certainly didn't sound like I did. But then I would I'd read my notes. I'd, try and internalize the notes, and then I'd put them aside and try and put my spin on it, because who you are and what your life experiences bring to the table and your take, your perspective, I think is what's interesting. If I just regurgitated what I'd learned, that's not interesting. So I try to be authentic in the sense that the stories were my stories, the examples were my examples, and I tried to give it my spin because I thought that was more interesting than just retelling what you probably could have just looked up on Google. So and I hope that came across as authentic. These were things that I personally were trying to improve on or had used for success, and that was what was the secret sauce, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Because everyone brings their own experience to the table, and definitely true with us. And being your own self. Nobody wants to hear me be like, the percentage of people that procrastinate every day is 700,000. No, nobody wants that. They want to hear what's real and authentic. And that applies to your life. Be your best authentic self. So, number 4.
Well, as we went along, we realized that although, well, we saw the long game. So instead of telling people everything we knew in one episode, we strung it out for 8 years. But you know
We
what?
did.
That's you have to adapt to what people want. And I don't think anyone, especially a show on efficiency, certainly it couldn't be a long, I didn't think anyway, an hour long. I felt we found our groove when we got to around 5 to 6 minutes per episode. And sometimes I'm a listener as well. So I would listen as they dropped, and I would think to myself on some of the long ones, like, okay, I get it, I'm done. And we adapted, we shortened them up. So we don't need to tell people everything we know in one session. And I think that's true. We try to focus on one thing, one important point per episode, and then save things for later, because I think people wouldn't want to hear it all at once. It's easier to digest, understand, and focus for just 5 minutes than it would have been for 30 minutes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the point of being efficient is putting things out there that you can digest and use right away without overloading you. So in that sense, what's number 5?
A lot of people come up to me and say, I want to write a book. I have an interesting life, or I have a story I want to tell, or I know this and I think people should know it too in a nonfiction book. And my advice is just, well, what's stopping you? And I think lately I hear a lot of people, I want to do my own podcast, but I don't know how. And my advice would be that for us, when we started, we went into a studio and all the technical things were handled. We were the quote unquote talent. But as COVID hit, we had to adapt. And so the way I looked at it is, it's not that we didn't know how, which we didn't, but it's just that we hadn't done it yet. So thanks to Ellen, mostly, we figured out how to do it remotely. And it wasn't something that either of us had ever done before, but we didn't make excuses. We figured it out. And I think that's true of a lot of things. You may have not done it before, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. And instead of excuses, find solutions and workarounds and be resourceful. That's a secret to, I think, you and I lasting this long.
Yeah. And it goes to so much in life. Okay, you haven't done it, big deal. There's so much information out there, especially now, that you can find out how to do almost anything. So you can't stop you. I can't do this. Nope, you just haven't done it. Figure it out. We did. Here we are 8 years later. Number 6.
It kind of dovetails with the last one, which we also try to do with our episodes when we would do series. I love those because we could stretch it out a little bit. And so the next one, number 6, is that if you start moving towards something, and I know this will sound a little woo, but the universe will put things in your path that you need. But you have to be either at least very thinking about it, but even better, doing something about it. We needed a producer. We needed an engineer. We needed a recording studio. We needed all these things that just kind of magically appeared. And it was all because we just were committed to doing it. And we started moving in that direction. And sure enough, when things are put in your path, not only you got to start moving toward it, you got to recognize that and accept them and act on them. So if you want to do something, start going in that way, kind of blindly, not knowing exactly how things are going to come together, but trust that they will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that. I love that. You just put it out there and things show up. You start paying attention to what you need if you don't want to think of it as so woo-woo, and you start paying attention to the things that you really need and get moving. And number 7.
Well, it could have been number 1, but I saved it for last. But it's really, people ask me, so Lee, well, first of all, I think some people think you and I are married, but we are, but just not to each other.
Exactly.
Hey, that's a little harsh. I would consider it, but all right, fine.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
We've actually known each other longer, at least I've known you longer than I know my husband. So
same here.
Yeah, that's true.
So, which is the point, is that someone said, well, I've been married for 30 years and my wife have known each other for 35 years. And people say, well, what's the secret to a successful marriage? Is it hard work? Is it all these other things? No, it's choosing the right person to start with. And it sounds it's not simple, obviously, but it is about, waiting. There were some other interesting choices, but I waited.
Right.
So I was a little bit older and I found that person. And I feel like for this, I couldn't have done it without you. You were the perfect person for this. I thought about doing a podcast before, but it just wasn't right. And I didn't want to do it alone, and I didn't have the right person. But when you appeared, I knew it right away. Our first meeting, I thought, this is someone that I could have a relationship with. Work relationship.
Yeah.
And that to me is the key. I mean, wouldn't have worked if it wasn't for you. So I just have to say, choose wisely.
And I completely agree, because I wouldn't have, by myself or with someone else, it wouldn't have been nearly as much fun. We wouldn't have had explored things that we explored if it wasn't for each other. So choosing wisely is definitely could have been number one, but it's a lovely number 7. And I hope you all feel like you have chosen wisely, giving us your time over 8 years, listening to us. We're not going away. We'll still be out there. You know how to get a hold of us. Reach out. Lee is available to come and talk to your group. I'm writing another book. I'm sure he's writing another book. And it has been a pleasure and a joy to be your co-hosts for the Faster, Easier, Better show. Lee, any last words, so to speak?
Well, yeah, I am a listener of the show, and I sometimes will catch myself as I'm listening. I'm just smiling. You know what I mean? I didn't even realize I was smiling along and nodding along. Like, yes, even though I had said that, or you had said that, I'm hearing it again, and I'm thinking, wow, that's what I think smart people just need to be reminded. So when we covered things that seemed sort of obvious, it was only to remind the smart people out there, who is everyone, that, try that again if you kind of got away from it, or try this, because, these things have been proven to work. And at the end of the day, I don't think I would have stuck around for 8 years if I didn't think that in some way, at least for one person, and that's all, if one person found a way to be more efficient, and that efficiency freed up time to do the things that they wanted to do, needed to do, loved to do, then it was totally worth it. Because I'm getting a little teary-eyed, actually. that really was, for me, what got me ready to go every day. Is like, okay, this could help somebody, and that's why I'm doing it. And to say goodbye,
it's okay.
I know. I'm going to be all right.
What? And the one thing that we
miss it.
Absolutely, before we close, all the props and thank yous to our producer, Wayne Duncan, who has put up with us for 8 years and taken care of us and made us sound good.
Yeah, he is a without whom for sure in our notes.
Yeah. So thank you for being our listeners. Go and be efficient in the best way you possibly can. Thank you.